The essence of navigation is always knowing exactly where you are. The primary tools we use for navigation are the magnetic compass and the chart. We see that we have two elements on this chart which become essential to us for navigation. First is this rectangular grid consisting of lines of latitude which run east and west parallel to the equator, and lines of longitude which run north and south between the geographic North Pole and the geographic South Pole. The second element is the compass rose, and it's the compass rose that allows us to connect our compass to this world of the chart that we're going to be using. The compass rose consists of two circles, an inner circle and an outer circle, each subdivided into 360 degrees. The outermost circle, as you can see, has a large red star at the top of it corresponding to geographic north. And you can see that if we look at the other directions on here, that these directions are perfectly aligned with the lines of latitude. Offset on this particular chart at an angle is the inner circle. The arrow near the top of this corresponds to the direction that your compass points, that is magnetic north. And as you can see, there's a slight angle between the two. Any 2 points on a chart define a course line. That is, a course is determined by any 2 points. For example, here on the beach at Great Gott Island, and we'd like to paddle over here to Baker Island. We'd also select that course line to avoid any hazards along the way. Now normally I'd do this with a pencil on the chart so that I could erase it later, but for the purposes of illustration we're using this bold magic marker. There we have defined the course line. What we need to know if we're going to paddle this course between Great Gott and Baker Island is the actual compass direction that we'll be steering with our compass on the deck of our kayak. Well, guess what? I've got a handy dandy course plotter all made up here for you. And we take any one of these parallel lines and place that on the beginning and the end of our course. And then here is the center of our compass rose, and we simply slide this down until one of those lines goes through the center of the magnetic compass rose, and I can read the actual bearing we'll be paddling as 085 degrees. Let's put that right on our course line so we'll know exactly the direction we're steering. 085 degrees magnetic. And remember, we always live in the magnetic world. We've only solved half our problem by determining our course direction from Great Gott to Baker Island. We also need to know how far it is. If we move to the distance scale on the chart, we see that we have 2 nautical miles indicated. And if we want to transfer this distance to our line, we can see that here's 2, 4, somewhere around 5 miles. But we actually have a more reliable way of doing this with the course plotter. And if we put one of those lines at the beginning of our course, we can then count exactly how far Baker Island is away. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.6 miles. Let's think about how long it might take us to paddle this distance. For example, if we paddle at 2 knots, that's for a beginner paddler, it's a very common speed for them. We take the 5.6 nautical miles, divide by 2, we get 2.8 hours, 8/10 of 60 minutes is 48 minutes, therefore the time it would take us at 2 knots is 2 hours and 48 minutes to make this crossing. If, on the other hand, we're a somewhat better, more experienced paddler, the conditions are ideal, and we can paddle at 4 knots. If we take the 5.6 divide by 4, you can see that it comes out to half the time that we had before, or 1 hour and 24 minutes to make the crossing. You've made your crossing now, and you've timed yourself as well, and lo and behold, it took you exactly 2 hours to make this crossing. So if you divide the 5.6 by 2, you've discovered that you made this crossing at an average speed of 2.8 knots. That is a valuable number to remember for your future paddling trips. You've learned how to plot a course using your course plotter and the magnetic compass rose, and you've actually paddled from Great Ghat to Baker Island, and you're on your way back home. As you paddled for approximately an hour, you take a visual check, you look to your starboard, and there's Great Cranberry Island. Now you look in the distance, and here comes the fog bank. And it drops in on you, and you can only see 50 yards. Now you're going to learn all about dead reckoning. And dead reckoning is knowing where you are based on the course that you're paddling on and the known speed of your boat through the water and the time that has elapsed since your last known point. And since you've come back to the southwest for about an hour, now the fog hits, how much longer should it take you before you hit Great Ghat Island, paddling on the same reverse course that you started from at Baker? And you can see that it should take you approximately at 2.8 knots, 1 more hour. If you paddle this course and you're now at an hour and a half to 2 hours of paddling time since your last known position, you've got a problem now. In this video, we've introduced you to the barest essentials of navigation. However, this knowledge does not prepare you for the conditions of winds much over 12 knots or currents over 2 knots. In fact, if you should find yourself paddling on a course at about 2 knots yourself and you're being hit by a current coming from your beam at 2 knots, you'd soon find yourself 45 degrees off course. For this reason, and the information we provided with you, you want to avoid conditions like this, and in particular in the fog. You're simply not prepared to deal with that. One of the things that's important for kayakers to do, or at least get into the habit of doing, and not everyone does this, but it's a good habit to learn, and that's keeping a log. And this simply means keeping track of your position at a particular time, because it may become important if the fog drops in on you and you need to reverse your course. You need to have some idea of how long it's going to take you to get back and when you should arrive. Now, there are a number of ways of doing this. What a lot of people do even before they leave on a trip is to take a grease pencil and write on their chart case, or if they happen to have a waterproof chart, write on the chart what their anticipated bearings, compass bearings are going to be, and about how long it should take them to get to each point. And of course, the complement of this is to actually record those times and position right on your chart. Or if you'd like to take a waterproof booklet with you, or even just a piece of plastic, that's another way to maintain a log while you're out paddling.